had teased this deck a while back, probably even as close as a month ago. I've always been meaning to try and incorporate more water decks, not even just water decks, but just more decks in general on this channel, because sometimes I feel like it kind of constricts me into just one path if I just choose to do Morale stuff. But I just like to pick up decks that I enjoy the art and also enjoy the playstyle of, and a lot of them so happen to just be water types in general. So this is a Rikka deck profile. I'm fairly new to the deck, I'm still learning it. We just got a new card from Rise of the Duelist, and so I hope you guys will have some patience with me as I kind of work on different builds and experiment with certain combos to try and get a best build. So with this deck profile, I'm going to be using this really cool PAL Manga Mats Rikka Queen rubber playmat. It's really nice, I really like its manga style. And with the superior style of Winter Kills, I'm going to just flip through the deck profile and then later in the video explain what those cards do and how they work with each other. Let's get into it. Starting us off with the main deck, we have 3 Rikka Petal. This is your main combo starter with the deck. She's also a level 1, so it has some really cool applicability with 1-for-1, but I don't really play that card in this build because I actually play this build a lot different than the combo heavy Orient. I actually play more of a control variant. It's pretty much all you really need to know and get from this card. She has also recurable, so it's pretty good. Searches Rikka monsters. 3 Mudan, this is your level 6 Rikka. She searches these spell and trap cards for the deck. 3 Snowdrop, the Rikka Fairy. She special summons herself plus a plant monster from the hand by attributing a monster you control. And so this also helps get your effects ready to go. 3 Primula, the Rikka Fairy. I was actually debating on playing 2 of this card, but I kind of in the end chose to play 3 just because she's so important with Snowdrop. Because Snowdrop needs to get like a plant monster from your hand, and being a level 4 allows you to go into Stranae because Snowdrop also copies Primula. We played 2 Erica. This is actually a card that you can pretty much cut. This is only here because she acts as an Alistair the Invoker by attributing yourself from the hand or the field to let your monsters gain some attack points. To up the consistency, we have 3 Lonefire Blossom. This mostly gets us the Rikka Petal. For spell cards, we have 3 of the Searcher. This is a Rikka Glamour. 2 effects, tribute a plant monster to get 2 monsters. Next we have Rikka Flurries. This card helps us play the control aspect of the deck. Same thing goes for Super Polymerization. This card really helps us deal with the Dogmatica boards. 2 Fury of Kairu Shin. This card helps us search Torrential Tribute as well as protecting our water monsters. 2 Pot of Desires. I don't play 3, that's just how I do things. 2 Rikka Sheets. 2 Rikka Tranquilities. These work really well in tandem with Stranae. 3 Solemn Judgments to help protect against lightning storms and evenly matched. 2 Torrential Tribute to work with Kairu. And 2 Heavy Storm Duster to round off the 40 card deck. For the extra deck, we play 3 Teardrop, the Rikka Queen. She's your main boss monster for the deck. She's also like one of the most short printed cards for the archetype, but she's not that expensive, so it's really nice to be able to use all 3 of her, especially during the game. 1 Kanzashi. 2 Strenas. I'll actually include a proxy somewhere on the screen just so you guys can read the effects and understand what she does. 1 Black Ship of Corn. 1 Sylvan Princess Sprite. This is the last of the Plant Xyz monsters I have. I don't have any of the Sylvan stuff, but it's definitely stuff you'd want to play. And for the Super Poly targets, 1 El Shaddai Anoyatalis, 1 El Shaddai Construct, 1 El Shaddai Winda. 2 of these are Floodgates, one's just a really good monster in general. 1 Starving Venom Fusion, 1 Dragon Stapelia. This card could honestly be cut for something else. 1 Mud Dragon of the Swamp, and 1 Gravity Controller. And if you guys want to stick towards the end, I'm just going to go in now and explain what the cards do and how they work in the deck. Your 2 main combo cards are Rikka Petal and Mudan. Rikka Petal searches a Rikka monster or dumps one, and if you control a plant monster on your field or no monsters in general, you can special summon this card from the graveyard during your opponent's end phase, giving you some insane recurability with the deck and able to punch through things while not having any cards in your hand. Mudan, on the other hand, searches for a Rikka spell or trap card. You can search for basically your trap cards or your glamour, or even a flurry to help pop through things on your opponent's board, break their board while you build your own. And also you can tribute 1 plant monster spell summon her from the hand. And so you can just go ahead and straight up normal summon Petal, use her effect to search for Mudan, then use Mudan to tribute the Petal, to special summon her to search for a Rikka spell or trap card, and continue with your plays. Snowdrop, of course. Snowdrop lets you tribute a plant monster, special summon herself plus another plant monster from your hand. A good target is to special summon Primula. Primula, when she's a level 4 target, so you can target her with Snowdrop to turn them both into level 4s or into level 8s. So for example, if you don't have any of the trap cards, you can use Snowdrop to turn them both into level 8s to go straight into your Teardrop, the Rikka Queen. However, if you don't, or if you do have trap cards to help do some stuff. You can make your copy of Primula, make them both level 4s to summon your copy of Stranae, then use your trap card to tribute her to go ahead and use her effect to special herself from the graveyard and overlay a teardrop on top of her. This definitely gives you a lot of power that this deck didn't have when it comes to using your monster's effects over and over again and sacrificing resources, which gives you an overall net advantage. The last two Rikka monsters being Rikka, this is really just here to give you the 1000 attack boost. This essentially makes Teardrop a 4000 attack beat stick. You can just put, just attack over anything, just 4000 attack. Really helps you get over problematic cards that cannot be targeted, destroyed by card effects, etc. Also helps really push for game, and that's the reason why I choose to play her. Now, because I am playing Pod Desires, is kind of why I chose to play 2 of this card in general. However, I don't have Mardell, the Generator Boss Queen, nor do I have Rose Girl, or whatever that new level 3 card from Eternity Code is. So instead, I chose to play 2 Rikka in the main, but this is the first card I'm going to cut when I do get those particular cards. The last supporting monsters are 3 Lonefires. This doesn't need much explaining, it's just there to combo off with Rikka Petal, because that's 6 different starters you have for the deck. And you don't actually have to turbo through all of the Lonefires, because this is not a consistency problem deck. It's mainly here to play controls, so you're going to want to only use one of these, and this helps you play around Nibiru and other problematic linked cards. 3 Rikka Glamour, you don't use the second effect to tribute a plant type monster to search for a Rikka monster plus a plant monster with the same level but a different name, because we aren't playing any of the other level 4 Rikka monsters or level 8. So we mainly just use this to search for Rikka Petal, making this a 9th copy in general. And the reason why I chose to play a control deck for this variant is because most of the main deck blocks you into plant monsters, especially Snowdrop and Rikka Petal. And so being able to play to this deck's advantage and using control, which does not hinder any part of the deck whatsoever, it actually has some pretty insane spell and trap support. I think it just makes the deck a lot more powerful overall and doesn't sacrifice a lot of things trying to play a combo variant would do. Most decks do play 1, but I'm playing Pot of Desires, so in case I banish 1, I want to have another one for backup. You could also side this card, but personally just being able to search this and activate this and in your opponent's turn, you can use any of your trap cards, such as Tranquility or Sheet, to tribute one of your monsters, and doing so that lets you either steal a monster plus negate their effects, special summon a monster, and then tribute a card your opponent controls, their choice, which is non-targeting and doesn't destroy. So it's a really good card to help break through specific parts of your opponent's board that other cards just simply cannot even accomplish. The only bad side about this card is that if you control a non-plant type monster during your opponent's end phase, this will be destroyed, but because it's during the opponent's end phase, you can still use the effect during their main phase or battle phase. The 3 Super Polys is mainly here to break through the dogmatic of boards, and because there aren't a whole lot of dedicated plant Xyz monsters for the deck, this gives you tons of room to just work around with a bunch of targets to help tailor your defense against most builds. Of course, you can play Elder Entity in Tis, or Cyber Dragonova plus the Invoked Makaba. However, I just don't have Cyber Dragonova with me. I actually left it with my FA deck in Europe, so I'm going to have to pick up some of those if I'm going to want to play more competitively. But because we're only playing online at the moment, I honestly don't need to. So if you're going to see an online build with me playing this on Dueling Book or Yugioh Pro or Nexus, you're going to see me make the changes of the cards I don't have, such as Forbidden Droplets. We have Kaioshin is just really good because not only does it searches your torrential tributes, it also protects your water monsters from being destroyed by card effects. So if you have a Teardrop or you have a Stranae that you don't want to be destroyed by a card effect, you can use Torrential Tribute that you search to blow up the field. Banish this from your graveyard to protect a water monsters you control from being destroyed by card effects. So if they try to lightning storm your monsters, this protects it as well as protecting against Cerberus and other forms of monster destruction through card effects. The last spell cards I do run on 2 Pot of Desires. I don't like playing 3 just because you can draw multiples a lot more frequent. However, that's such a low probability. You can definitely get away with playing 3. Call me a bad player. I don't care. I just choose to play 2 of cards that can just help you gain a ton of advantage. I prefer this card over triple Tactical Talents because Talents usually have to rely on an opponent's hand trap to do things. And if this deck doesn't open any combo cards and just open cards like Solemn Judgment plus Torrential Tribute, Tactical Talents isn't going to get you anywhere. So Desires is just a really good top deck to play with. That you can even bait your opponent's hand traps. 4 traps, 2 Ricochet, 2 Tranquilities. She's there because you don't even have to tribute a card to use either of these cards by themselves. However, if you want to use their second effects or their better effect, you will have to tribute a plant monster for them. Sheet, you can target one monster your opponent controls face up, and that monster cannot activate their effects this turn. This can essentially stop Neptibus, whereas other cards cannot because it doesn't prevent them from activating. Except for maybe True King of All Calamities. And if you tribute a plant type monster, you take that monster until the end phase. And it becomes a plant monster for you to tribute for Tranquility or for a different card. Tranquility, if you can use this card to target one Rikka monster in your graveyard to special summon it. And if you tribute a plant monster, for example, if you tribute Strenna, you can tribute Strenna, target one Rikka monster from your graveyard, and one plant monster, so you can also special summon another. Good example, I don't really have one, but let's for example say Erica, because she has an effect that lets you gain attack points. You can tribute the Strenna to target Erica and Strenna, special summon 2 cards or something. Maybe not Strenna, but another random card. Let's say a Kanzashi that you have in the graveyard. And then you can use Strenna's effect to special summon herself and equip her or exceed summon her with material to teardrop the Rikka Queen. And this just helps you get back full protection, much like the Ritual Beast trap card that just puts everything back. 3 Judgments doesn't need much explaining, it's just there to offer protection against such heavy back row hate. You could also play Polynosis, which also works really well with Strenna, but I just chose not to because I don't want to constantly rely on that. I also play Tranquility. And the final 4 cards in the deck are just standard spell and trap card removal. This card, like I said, Karyushin. So this card you can also place with Twin Twisters, but Twin Twisters require you to discard cards. And this, however, just destroys up to 2 cards. And you don't have to worry about the negatives that come with Twin Twisters or Lightning Storm. And you can easily side these cards out if you're playing against a deck that doesn't have spell or trap removal. But most decks have a field spell. Most decks have one trap card like Schism, or even the Dogmatic trap card. So just removing those cards from play just makes your life a whole lot easier playing Rikkas. Straight on to the extra deck, 3 Teardrops. Her effect becomes a quick effect when she has a plant monster as Xyz material, which Strenna really helps a lot with. You can detach material to tribute 1 monster on the field. It targets, but it doesn't destroy. And so this becomes a quick effect, much like Trident. Each time a monster is tributed, this card gains 200 attack until the end phase. It can make her really, really beefy. Only one Kanzashi, you don't summon her that much. She's mainly there for protection, which is what Karyushin does. 2 Strenna, you can detach a material to target 1 plant monster or Rikka card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And if this card is tributed by a card effect, you can special summon this card and equip 1 rank 5 or special summon 1 rank 5 Xyz monster from your plant Xyz monster from your extra deck and equip this card to it as Xyz material. Black Ship of Corn is a level 4 plant Xyz monster that can just tribute a monster your opponent controls and burn 1000 damage. Sylvan Princess Spite is there to help search for your spell and trap cards, which you do play a lot of. You generally hardly summon this, but it is there just as a utility card, just in case. As for your Super Poly targets, I chose to run 3 Shaddoll cards simply because your opponent's going to summon Winda a lot. And if they have El Shaddoll Fusion, if you have, for example, Forbidden Droplets or Imperm or something like that, they can just use Schism or El Shaddoll Fusion if they're playing a Shaddoll Invoke deck to basically cycle out their Winda for a second copy of Winda. So Super Poly just kind of really negates that. So a Dark Monster plus a Shaddoll, Shaddoll plus a Light, Shaddoll plus a Water. This card also stops your opponent from using Monster Reborn or other forms of revival or recursion, such as World Legacy Succession. And your deck's primarily water, so you can just normal summon your any water stuff, don't use their effect, and then go for a quick and easy Super Poly and wait for next turn. Starving Venom, Predaplan, Dragostapelia, and Muddragon are more of the generic Super Poly targets. This card could honestly be swapped for the Rafflesia Predaplan because if your opponent's playing Dramatica, they make you send some cards from your extra deck to the graveyard. And with that, you can send a copy of Teardrop, plus if this was Rafflesia, during your opponent's turn, or during your standby phase, you can use her effect to search for a Super Poly, which they'll probably bait out the negate, or you'll bait out the negate of a Invoked Mikaba. And Strenna can target any Xyz monster in the graveyard, so it's fine sending a Teardrop, which is why you run 3 copies. Dragostapelia is just there to use a fusion monster plus a dark monster. It's essentially the same thing as Winda, but Winda also stops your opponent from special summoning multiple cards. They're both just really good targets, and Muddragon basically hits any other deck that isn't those decks. And so these are really good Super Poly targets to play for Rikkas. Final card's Gravity, so you can help get rid of some of these cards from your field, because by sending them, I don't know, if this card's in the extra monster zone, you're not really going to use it for anything else. So you can just go ahead and get rid of this for Gravity Controller, then use this to remove a second problem card that your opponent has that you have trouble outing. I hope you enjoyed this Rikka deck profile. I'm definitely going to be exploring this deck more so in the future. This is really just the beginning of this deck. I know I teased it a long time ago, but I just never really had the time or cards to put it together, because I don't like putting deck profiles together, especially if I don't have the right cards. And I really just like proxying in general, but sometimes, you know, that the time frame is not something I can really work with. So better put something up and explain what those proxy cards are than never do it in general. And if I am going to be playing matches with this online, I want to at least give you a bit of a idea to how I'm going to be piloting it. I think Control is better than the Aromage variant just because it's more consistent in a way you don't have to rely on combos being hit by hand traps. You can just play a bunch of trap cards which help play around cancerous cards like Zexal and True King of All Calamities.